All right. Hello here, Falcon family. We are here continuing on with our Women's History Month series. I am so very excited because we have with us one of our very own students here at Wintersville High School, Miss Lucinda Diehl. Lucinda, I call her Lou because that is just what I've done since you've been a freshman. And wow, and you're getting ready to be a senior next year. I can't even believe it when I sit here and really think about it. Because just yesterday, you were coming in those doors talking to me about a million things, and I'm like, what is this freshman girl like? What's up with her? She's like, she's ready to go. But it's been awesome to see you grow and come into your own. We'll talk about some of your accomplishments and some of the things that you're doing throughout this interview. But first and foremost, thank you so much for being here and agreeing to do the interview.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brown. I'm so happy to be here. When you first told me about it, I was like, yes, sign me up. So I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. So the point is, I know people are out there probably wondering, like, why the heck am I interviewing a student for Women's History Month? They probably haven't accomplished anything in their life as of yet. However, I think it's important to have perspective, um, you know, as we talk about women and young women, and who you all are going to grow up to be, and where your mindset is as far as the next generation. So I want to get an idea to run through some of these questions with you and get your idea and perspective. First and foremost, um, what current title do you? I know you got different things going on. I'm on your LinkedIn. Like, you got a lot of titles that you have there. So, what title do you currently hold outside of just being a student for CCPS public schools, and what does that entail? And just talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that is definitely a loaded question because I do a lot. I try to do as much as I can and help as much as I can when I can. Um, so I'm also a student at Carroll Community College. I'm dual enrolled, so I also participate in a lot of extracurriculars at Carroll Community, along with a lot of extracurriculars within Winters Mill. I am also the Carroll County representative for the student focus group for the Maryland Center for School Safety. I am also an intern at a nonprofit organization for climate change and climate education. And I'm the president and founder of my own climate initiative within Carroll County, teaching and educating and advocating for the environment.
Wow. And I feel like you probably left something. Now, when you probably go back and think about it, you're like, man, I left this off. But that is a lot for somebody that's your age. So I'm so very proud of you with everything that you've taken on your plate so early on, in your academic career here. So tell me a little bit about your background. I know it personally, but just for the people, where did you grow up? And, how was your upbringing? And what were you like as a small little kid?
So, um, I was born in China, and during this time, it was the one-child policy. I was most likely given up for adoption because they were unable to take care of me with the laws that were in China at the time. And so my family, Kate and Brian Diehl, they really wanted a little girl, and they always told me that they wanted me before I was even born. And so um, I was adopted and brought home on December 5th. And,
Mm.
I have been raised in Maryland, Carroll County for my entire life since the age of 1. Um, I was raised with 3 older brothers, and I have a younger sister who was also adopted. And I, growing up, have always felt like an older sibling because my 3 older brothers did move out, all graduated from Carroll Community College as well. Um, And so there's definitely a sense of community in everything I do. And as I was growing up, there was always that, whether it was church or school or people who knew my family or knew my brothers, there was always that sense of community that was definitely within my family that my family definitely wanted to instill within me. And as a child, I would definitely say I'm I I've definitely grown. I'm taller now, but I was always a very loud and opinionated child, and I think I'm still loud and opinionated, but I think I've definitely worked on being able to be a little less opinionated when I need to be.
Awesome. So you were that kid in first grade that people were like, shh.
I was the kid who would ask for more homework. Yeah. I don't do that anymore.
I'm about to say your teachers are watching this, so if you say you need more homework, I'm sure they will oblige you. So just be careful.
No.
So I guess for me, like, how did you get interested in doing more than just being a student? Because it's easy just to be a student, just to come to school, go home, just live that kind of like normal life. And what motivated you to do more?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like I said, when I was young and still am, I'm loud. I have a presence about me, and even when I was a kid, I noticed a lot on TV that there weren't people that looked like me, or people that looked like my little sister who's adopted from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of people who looked like my older brothers, and they just appear like what society wants to see. And I always wanted to see myself, and that really drove my motivation to be someone that other little girls and young people of color can see me as someone to look up to, or to ask questions about, or to confide in. And overall, with what I do outside of being a student at Winters Mill, it's all a driving force to help create a better environment for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And see more people to look up to that look like me, or look like my sister, or look like you. And I think, this interview is just another step in me being able to say you are seen when you don't necessarily see yourself.
Wow, that's really powerful. And you just have such a unique situation with your family and everything else, that I think it gives you a unique perspective on the world, as a whole. I know we've talked about it many times, but your perspectives are so different than a lot of people's other perspectives, just because of how your life and how your parents have kind of structured everything, which I think is beautiful. But I think it helps you to be a stronger individual, and be more opinionated with different things, because right? Your own perspective and your little sister, and your parents and everybody else's perspective within the home. So that's awesome. So what did it take for you're connected to a lot of different organizations. What did it take for you to become a part of those organizations? There's a lot of students and your peers that are watching. They may want to get involved in stuff, but then they don't necessarily know how to really go about it. So, talk a little bit about that.
A lot of the things that I do involve putting myself out there. I recently turned 16 in the November of 2020. I started college as a 15-year-old, and that being said, I was faced with a lot of shock, like, wow. And sometimes that was a good thing, because it was like, oh, you're accomplishing a lot, but sometimes it seemed like people then expected less of me. And I always wanted to be more than what people expect of me, and do more than I need to. And a sort of a workaholic, so it happens. But putting myself out there, I reached out to the college president at Carroll Community. So now I'm able to email him, and he's not surprised. And I do the same with you. I try to really reach out to anyone that I can that can remember that, hey, I'm still doing something, I'm still working, and I wanted you to know that I'm working towards this. And reaching out to these organizations, for example, the Maryland Center for School Safety, I followed them on Instagram, and they showed that they had an opportunity, and you had to sign up. You needed to list all your extracurriculars, all your community service, and have a adult reference. And I signed the application and filled it out that day. I have this drive to constantly meet people and develop relationships and connections with people to make sure that they know, hey, change is happening. I would really love for you to help me, for you to work with me, for us to partner on this. And that's why I started my climate initiative. And we recently actually had a webinar with 3 local government members from the Carroll County government sector in the environmental field. It was an amazing experience, and I got to listen to 3 amazing adults, Miss Maria Myers, Miss Brenda Denny, and Mr. Jeff Deggets, and all 3 of them had such amazing information. And being a part of outside organizations and groups, not involved with school, but involved with the community, and really affecting how people interact with their environment and their homes and schools, it keeps motivating me to keep reaching out, to keep connecting with others, and to keep learning and listening about what other people are doing so I can help them.
Awesome. I think that's going to be really helpful for others, because it's scary to kind of put yourself out there, but it's necessary in order for you to take that next step to really get involved. Because what you were just saying, it wasn't that people were just knocking down your door like, hey, come to this organization. Like, you had to do some research. You had to, be fearless and be able to contact people and find out what the process was. So I think that's big, and I think that's going to help a lot of people, Lou, along the way. So I appreciate you sharing that. Along with this, I mean, it's Women's History Month. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask some questions that were targeted towards that, right? So from a young woman's perspective, have you had to deal with, any gender-related issues growing up or as you transition throughout your academic career to this particular point?
Mr. Brown, that is a really good question, because growing up as a little girl, a lot of people in Carroll County, being Chinese and looking the way I look, a lot of people have told me or made the assumption about me that I'm good at school, and not because I work hard, or not because I study, or not because I try to ask my teacher more questions or more understanding. It's because it's natural to me. Insinuating that because I'm Chinese, that I'm Asian, you should be good at this. That is probably something that has a little less to do with my gender and a little more to do with my race. But in regards to the gender issue, they intersect. And I think intersectionality is a big part of how people live their lives, and especially young women of color, because I'm not only a young woman, but I'm a young woman of color. And I believe that when those 2 things intersect, there's this idea that, my parentage pushes me to do all this work, when that's not the case. Oftentimes my parents are always telling me, you should do less. You're always stressed. But being a little girl, there is that question of older boys asking you, oh, well, you're too weak, or you're too sensitive. And something that I could say might be viewed as emotional, while if my male counterpart said it it's passion, it's drive.
Mm-hmm.
And I've faced that all of my life because I am loud and opinionated. And when a man is loud and opinionated, it is viewed differently.
Mm-hmm.
And that has definitely been something, a challenge that I've personally faced in my academic and professional careers.
Awesome, and thank you for answering that question. It's not an easy one, even for adults, right? But I asked some of my adults the same question because not just for you, but again, for people that are going to be viewing this now and for years to come, I believe people can gain strength from other people's stories and other people's experiences. And so what you just shared, I think, is really powerful because that's something that somebody else or another young lady growing up that may be of Asian descent can look back at this and say, this is definitely something that I can pull from and gain some strength from. So I appreciate your courage for answering the question. So something a little bit easier, right? So who or what is someone in your life that is a hero to you, and what kind of gives you motivation to get up and do what you do every day?
That reminds me of a class I took last semester at Carroll, English 101, and our first essay was, who is your hero? And a lot of people did something on their mom, their dad, their grandparent, their next door neighbor, their babysitter. And as much as I wanted to say what everyone else was saying, and I didn't. I chose and asked the teacher, can I be my own hero? And sort of reflecting on this conversation, I'm influenced by many, and a lot of my motivation is influenced by many. And when I wrote that paper, I specifically focused on the motivation I had within myself. But since I've talked about that a lot, I think I definitely need to give a few shout outs. But someone that I specifically look up to a lot is my grandma. She has a ample, overflowing bucket of kindness. And there's this analogy they teach you in kindergarten. You need to fill someone's bucket and other people will fill yours. And you start with nothing in your bucket and you make someone smile and you just filled someone else's bucket. And if someone makes you laugh, they filled your bucket. And my grandma has, I swear, an entire garage filled with buckets of love and kindness and caring and consideration that I really am motivated through her. Whenever we have a conversation, she's so sweet. And I think I learn a lot through her kindness and through her caring for others. When I think about the work I do, I do really think about how this helps others. And, my mom has really, mother-daughter relationships as a teenage girl, it's always going to be a little strained, but my mom is so strong. And sometimes I forget that, I'm here with her every day. So it's like you forget that they do so much.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, I'm getting a little emotional.
It's fine.
But yeah, my mom, she's a lot like me in the sense that she's always looking for an opportunity to help or influence others. And I watched her run her own business and lead women of color and women who weren't of the same ability as her, both mentally and physically. And I forget there's so much inspiration so close to home. And I feel like if more girls tried to see young women who are closer to them and not a celebrity or someone that's almost too perfect,
Mm-hmm.
instead looked closer to home and like, your mom does so much for you. And my mom does a lot for me that I think for, a long time I overlooked, but over quarantine, I really see how much she does and how much she supports me. And that's definitely a big motivator in what I do.
That is awesome. That's awesome. And it is fine, I think your heroes, even though, like you said, you're kind of like your own hero, but sometimes you gotta do that origin story, right, to find out where all of your stuff comes from, and a lot of that comes from the people that are around you and the people that have, vested a lot of time in making sure that you are the individual that you turned out to be. And your mom is definitely one of those people in your grand. So it's fitting. It's Women's History Month. Hopefully, when she sees this, she'll be just as emotional probably as you are when she sees it. So I think that's awesome to give those shout outs. So with that being said, going back to women, do you think, and this is a question I know you have an opinion on, so I'm very interested in this. Do you think women have progressed over the years, and is there still more work that needs to be done?
I love this question. One of my other heroes is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. An inspirational story. She was a mother before she was a lawyer, and was a mother in law school. And it's hard enough to be a girl in school today, but as she was growing up, that it must have been so much more difficult. And I am actually reading her book, In My Own Words, by Ruth Bader Ginsburg and two of her associates. And it's enlightening to learn about it because she actually mentions in her book that the legal field only, like less than 10% of women were practicing law when she was learning.
Mm-hmm.
And then she mentioned today how now almost 40% of, legal deans, paralegals, attorneys, prosecutors make up the legal field. And, 10 to 40 is a big jump.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Of course, it's not half. And the legal field, the field that I want to go into, being a lawmaker, being a judge, or being someone who really can influence how these laws affect communities and people. I'm still the minority, both in status and both in my gender, being a female and a male-dominated area. Similarly, my best friend, she wants to be an astrophysicist, and the STEM field is filled with this it's a male-dominated career. And I believe women have progressed, but I believe there's so much more progression that we can and will make, because I'm meeting young women through my organizations every day who amaze me with their stories and with their drive. And I think women's progression is going to be ever evolving and ever developing. And I think that's how everything is. Everything is a circle, and you just keep moving. And sometimes you take a step back, but then you take two more steps forward. And it's not a matter of hills and valleys anymore. I think it's a lot more about taking that hike. Just every step matters in women's progression, and especially for women of color. And I think that we are getting closer with every day and with every action that people in the activism field are making, and it's astonishing to watch.
That's awesome. I think that, with you being a person like you are, and as far ahead of the game as you're in, I think the future looks very, very bright for women in this country. with you being an individual that's going to be trying to take that baton and take it to the next level. So everybody should be proud if they're watching this that you are the next generation, and with you, there's going to be even more possibilities to, burst through that gap that you were talking about. That 40%, it's going to be another jump in the next 20 or 30 years, and you're going to be a part of that. So that's exciting. Women's History Month. What does it mean to you? Did you know it was a month? Like some people don't know. Like, do you know about it? And what does it mean to you?
I did know it was a month. I was looking forward to it. I posted something on my Instagram the first day of Women's History Month. Check me out at Lucinda.Diehl. Just a little plug right there. But I think, to me, Women's History Month is a time to recognize women, both of past, present, and future, meaning it's an entire month dedicated to what women had done, are still doing, and continue to do. And I think all those three things really overlap in the sense that women from our history influence our women today and keep influencing the young women and young girls who are looking up to people of today. I'm specifically looking at women that I might have never seen until I got into the fields I work with. And it's great to see how much love there is and support there is. And it's almost like making up for lost time, because a lot of, our inventions or discoveries are white men, and it's not because they were necessarily bad people. It's just because they had power. They had a voice, a much louder one than white women or any marginalized community at the time. And with Black History Month being in February, and then you have Women's History Month in March, it shows that, there's so much lost time, but it's not just about the history. It's also about how the history is affecting today, and how today, because of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you have this driven 16-year-old Chinese girl trying so hard to become a Maryland senator. And, that drive and that initiative, without a story like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, without people like Michelle Obama, without people like Kamala Harris, we need that history to see others make more of it. And I think that's really what women's history is about, is that women in history and women making history like Kamala Harris, it's that in itself affects our future and affects young women. And I can't wait to see what more women do.
Yeah, and that's excellent. I think that for me, and the reason why I wanted to do this interview with, a student is because, history is now, right? It's not like we don't have to look back and see, like, history for women is going on right now as we speak. And you are a part of that, So to be able to capture that, like I said, with this interview and in your comments, it's true. I mean, yes, you have to look back on the past, on what everything and what we've accomplished. However, it's also about what's happening right now, because that's going to shape the future for women in this country. So that's awesome. So I got one last question for you. So to look back, and like I said, this is not that long ago because you're still very, very young, right? So this is the thing. So when I say look back, you should be able to vividly remember.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just a few short years ago, right? So you're 10 years old, right? You have the opportunity to go back and talk to your 10-year-old self, right? What advice would you give her?
I would tell her that it gets better. That I was bullied in school, and so I felt not only a sense of inferiority because of possibly my race or gender, but just because kids were mean. And, I think that really affected my young mental health, and it still affects it today. But I would tell her that one day you'll be so proud of yourself, and your situation right now might seem dark or hopeless, and that's not what it will stay as. It gets better. And I know it's so overrun, but it does. If you keep working and you keep being yourself and not let other people get to you and make you feel less than, it will get better. And you will feel better. And no matter what anyone says that tries to hurt you or bring you down or make you feel inferior, it does not make who you are. You are so much more than what other people tell you that you are or what you need to be, because you are yourself. And you will feel and be so much bigger than what anyone who's ever put you down has said to you.
Wow. That's powerful, Lou. I mean, it really is. And I think that's the best advice that I've ever heard. Anybody being able to talk about what advice they would give their younger selves, because you have persevered through a lot in your young life, and I truly believe that your words, especially with that last question, is going to help some people out there. I really do. I think it's going to help some girls. I think it's going to help some young boys. I think it's going to help some people out there that are struggling right now with their mental health to know that the sun will rise tomorrow, and tomorrow's a new day, and that um, there's hope for the future, right? And that's all sometimes people need, is to know that there's hope, and you are a living, breathing example of that hope, right? So I think it's awesome. You already know what I think of you as a person, right? I big you up all the time, but I do that on purpose. I do that on purpose. I'm guilty of it, but I do it on purpose. And it's not anything that I wouldn't do for any of my students. But for you, I know that you have a heart that is of gold, and that you care about people, and it's not a stunt. It's actually real. I am a testament to the kind emails that you send me on a regular basis, and my administrative team, checking on our own mental health in this pandemic, even though we should be concerned about your mental health, but yet you're concerned about ours. Um, it's really unparalleled to a lot of things that I've experienced from children and from kids. Being an administrator, being mostly involved in high school, in my academic, career. Um, it's it's special, right? So we value you. We think that you're awesome. Keep doing big things. I know that you will. You have another year to go, so I'm super pumped about that. That we can spend a little bit more time together, and for myself and the rest of the admin team, being able to see you grow into womanhood and reach your dreams and your potential. So I appreciate it, Lou.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brown, um, for having me and for this interview. And I just wanted to end off with the end of my signature, my email signature. I have a quote saying the trick to getting ahead is getting started, by Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens. And I just think that's really what's, to summarize, what I've been doing since I was little, is getting ahead by getting started.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate your words of encouragement. And I appreciate you taking time out with this series. So thank your parents as well. Thank you, parents. Appreciate it. All right, Lou.
Have a good day, Mr. Brown.
All right.